Well, lay it on the line, my baby. A little time alone, please, maybe. Are we serious or just faking? I'm just curious, can you blame me? I wanna blow your mind. Well, I wanna blow your mind. It's new.
Wow, nice.
Thanks.
Welcome to my circle. Hello, Robert. Hi, Donald. Welcome, Vince. Welcome, Doug.
Thanks for having me, Delphine.
Welcome to my circle, man. Hi, Dave. We met through our mutual friend, Christopher Valencia. And I have to tell the story because you were a major part of the inspiration for my podcast.
Oh, my.
I think I might have told you. So when Christopher, he knew that I'm a fan. And when I heard that he knew you, I was like, introduce me. I want to meet Shaheen. And he said, oh, okay. Yeah, I talked to Shaheen and I told him that you want to meet him. And here's his phone number. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm finally going to meet this man that I've looked up to for so many years. I mean, I'm such a fan of your work. And I was like, I have nothing going on. What am I going to talk to him about?
Oh, geez.
And I decided that I was going to just see if I could get lunch with you and really pick your brain for what's coming because you're really known to be a visionary and a trendsetter. And I thought maybe I can get some clues from Shaheen about what I should be doing next. And I'm telling my girlfriend this, and she said, oh, would you record that conversation? In fact, just put it in a podcast.
Oh, jeez.
And that's how this whole Delphine Circle came about. So even though you are not my first guest, you are the inspiration.
Oh, my.
So.
That's terrific. Thanks.
Yay.
Yeah.
But speaking of books, as I understand it, you're in the process of writing your first book.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Born in OC.
Yes.
Which I happen to know that you weren't born in OC originally,
No.
so it's not an autobiography. So tell us about that book. It's coming out this year, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm hoping to have it released by Christmas, but we'll see. You know, there's always just like building a house or anything. Everything takes longer than you want it to. But I started writing this book in the early 2020, January, and it's an idea I've had for, at least maybe 20 years. And I wanted to write a book about the people that, not necessarily people that were born in Orange County, but like ideas that come out of Orange County or businesses that started here. You know, there's so many like Vans, of course, Disney, Knott's Berry Farm, you know, the whole surf industry.
Right.
A lot of it is from here.
The Hour of Power TV show, of course, is what we're talking about. And you were the minister on that show from 76 to, I think, 2008 or 2010?
Correct. 2008.
Yeah. I also read that The Hour of Power is neck and neck with 60 Minutes as the longest running television show in history.
I think we started the same time.
Okay.
And so we, like you said, we're neck and neck the Hour of Power literally is still going on. It's never stopped.
Right.
So
It's now being hosted by your son, Bobby.
yeah, exactly. So I guess it is still neck and neck.
Yeah, that's incredible. 51 years. Wow. Do you see, I mean, from what you're hearing from your clients, do you see us returning to the, where we used to be, or do you see remote working as here to stay?
I think it's here to stay. Okay. What we've done with COVID in particular, we've tested our ability through technology, through digital transformation, on how we conduct business in an enterprise. And we found out, you can just look at the sequential revenue growth. If you just look at the NASDAQ and all the earnings reports from technology companies over the past year and a half to 2 years, they're escalating. Yet we're in an environment where we're far more dispersed than we've ever been in our lifetimes. So tech has proven that we can be far more effective working from our homes. Now, having said that, I do have companies that think that there are key individuals and employees that need to be at a headquarters. So if COVID were to end tomorrow, these C-level executives would call HR and say, get Ron, John, and Sue back in here. They're in Florida, in Naples, hanging out at their beach house, and now it needs to come back. And there's going to be resistance. And at the end of the day, it's the employees that are going to win. I think we've changed the course of our working environment forever.
What was that like for you? I mean, was it just overnight you were a celebrity? And
yeah, I'll never forget. Again, as I grew up playing baseball my whole life, and wanted to go play college baseball, and that was the direction I was going. But after doing this show, I remember, the MTV said they're going to start running ads and they're going to start putting stuff, in movie theaters. The commercials are going to start airing, and as soon as that happened, I remember the next day when everything started to come out, I went down to the gas station and my car got swarmed with people. And it was a very, very, at 17 years old, you don't know how to respond to that type of stuff. Obviously young and, still trying to figure out life, it feeded an ego. Anybody wants to be loved and liked. And overnight, everything literally had changed. Yeah. Overnight.
I remember we were up in San Francisco and I was with the boys and we had to do something where we showed our IDs and the girl goes, Channels, are you related to Cedric Channels? And we're like, are you kidding me right now? Right. We're like, yeah. She was like, oh my gosh, it's my favorite.
Well, it's crazy to look at, the time frame. I mean, back then there was no YouTube, there was no, social media like there is today. I mean, there was maybe MySpace or something, but there was no other outlet. So I mean, cable, the TV was your way to, produce shows and create products and have that versus what we have today. So that's another interesting experience is it's totally different now being back on the show and stuff versus what it was, 15 years ago. It's a not only the shooting experience, but just the aftermath and everything that goes along with it it's not the same as it was 15 years ago. And for me, it's better. I like it.
When I started in the business, that was absolutely how everybody looked at it. You would never use your song on a commercial, but the business has changed and the culture has changed. Yeah. And the idea of an artist has completely changed because, as I was speaking earlier, that you used to have a label that would support you. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to think about how you're selling yourself. You just make your music, you have a production, you have help in all that stuff. And you have a promotion department that takes care of all that so you can focus on now if you want to get seen, you've got to get 1 million followers somewhere and how do you get 1 million followers? You got to promote yourself. And so.
Well, you are no stranger to cooking competitions. You are the champion of Chopped, wildly popular cooking competition. You were the 2014 champion. Yep. And
that was a while ago now.
So I am so interested. You got to go back. First of all, how did you get on the show?
I was really fortunate with Chopped. I did a show before Chopped called Eat Street, and it was called The Truck Stops Here. There was a time where I did... You always have the funniest names on the show. Exactly. So it was called The Truck Stops Here, and I did a couple of my signature dishes on that show. I did an arancini bolognese. I did this grilled Bianca flatbread. And I was really lucky, too, because the Food Network, when that one came out, asked me to submit those recipes to a cookbook that they did for the show. So I actually got published in that Eat Street cookbook for the arancini and the grilled Bianca flatbread. So that aired on the Cooking Channel, but it was a Food Network cookbook that came out. And so that was really fun to be a part of that.
Why do you think Lost is as successful as it is?
I mean, I really think part of our success is because of the success of our surfboards. We've always had, in our industry, the most authentic thing you can ever be is a surfboard. And there's very few companies who make clothing who can really claim to have one of the top surfboards in the world. And I think that drives the image of our brand, and it's what's kept us young, because Lost is not that young, but people still think we're young because all the young kids use it in the water.
So my guilty pleasure fragrance is this little guy, which
I don't think I've ever seen that bottle before.
Does any of you speak French? Because I will never pronounce this. I won't even try it.
It's Elixir de Merveille.
Yeah. So I think it goes like Elixir de Merveille, something like French, friends, I'm sorry, you can teach us how to say it right. Anyway, I love this one. And these please go ahead.
No, I want to smell
it. It goes with my skin. And
it smells amazing.
Where'd you find it?
So that's Hermes.
Oh yeah, that smells good. I actually feel like I've smelled this. Maybe it's been on you.
Oh, yeah.
Orange County Business Journal awarded you the coveted Excellence in Entrepreneurship Award. I probably was there because I love those events. And you're also named the owner of the largest women-owned business in Orange County, which is a major metropolis. Why is helping women specifically so important to you?
Well, I recall needing help myself. Not only that, but when I was young, despite the fact that I was fearless, I grew up partly on the farm in Oklahoma, and my father was a single father. I lived with him for a while with my brother, and he was not married. Then he was married, and you know, our life wasn't that elegant. And I can remember as a child feeling sometimes the insecurity of not having a stable home life. And whether you came from, you know, a father self home life or a mother as the sole proprietor or the sole earner, I just think it is so important for me to contribute a good portion of what I do while I'm alive here on earth in helping to create some stability, not only for the mother, but also for the children. So they have more confidence about their future as they go throughout their day. And I'm hoping that these kids aren't going to school without lunch money. You know, I hope that they have a new pair of shoes to start school with, and that maybe they don't have to wear last year's too small jacket, because trust me, I've been there. And it's not that I'm definitely not a materialistic person. No, that sounds ridiculous sitting in this house, but
Having material things doesn't make you materialistic.
right. And I appreciate just at least knowing that I can create the security that is needed to raise a family today. I don't want anyone going hungry. I don't want anyone to not have the basics. I want them to be able to buy their school books. And if they're college bound, to be able to not go into debt to pay for a college education, those kind of things.
I realized at a very young age, I work for myself first, no matter what job I've ever had, and I'm the boss, and I know everything I don't do. If I'm cutting a corner, it doesn't matter if I got caught or not. I know. So I think that's part of why we're here. Some people seem to figure it out, and some people don't. And I
Do you think that's important to be successful in business?
No, I don't. I think it's just important to be successful and have integrity within yourself. I know a lot of people that are hugely successful that were not honest individuals. I ran into that quite often in entertainment. Love the entertainment business, still have amazing lifetime friends, but I had never met so many people who would do almost anything to be successful. It's a tough industry, and it really doesn't bring out the best in everyone. And so that was a learning curve for me.
Give us some scoop. Tell me about like a shoot that you've been on that things went crazy or things went super cool, or dish a little story to us.
Well, one of the really cool shoots that I did was with Kobe Bryant and Karl Malone and Shaq.
What?
Yeah. So we were at Health South where they practice, and essentially just did a photo shoot for Max Muscle, and it was for the cover of Max magazine. And we were down in the locker room, and Kobe Bryant, he was like snapping his towel at Karl Malone when I was taking pictures of Karl. And he's like, make love to the camera, make love to the camera. And just like, it was super fun. And Shaq, he loves photography. So we're talking cameras. And this is when Shaq kind of first started. So it was really, really just a great, awesome experience. All of them on the Lakers at one time. So,
oh my gosh, I'll never forget that day.
Yeah, that was incredible.
And yet you work in an industry that's very image driven. It's, we all know that Hollywood and you work with celebrities, you work with influencers, you work with brands that are creating an image. So is that in conflict with what you do for your clients?
It's the opposite of conflict. It's the only way to survive. It's the only way to survive 15 years in Hollywood is by being so completely secure and real with who you are. Because otherwise, you'll kill yourself. You'll go crazy. These girls, they have these image goals that are so unrealistic. But I also have been behind the scenes for so long that I just know that it's all fabricated, right? Like the image of perfection it's art. It's an art form, but I am not going to live my real life in a way that is pursuing a fantasy, right? Hollywood is a fantasy, real life is real life. So they're two different things, and I'm able to compartmentalize those things.
We were just talking about it before, about the importance of preserving public art and making sure. I mean, right now you have a wall in Detroit that's being endangered.
Yeah. I got to get up at 4 a.m. and do a live from Detroit, Fox 2 News, to protect my wall that I painted for my hometown of Detroit. Apparently, and I've done this a few times already, it's the most prominent wall in Detroit. So if you're at Tiger Stadium, and somebody hits a home run in the right field, anyway, it's right there, right off Woodward. So the latest is that this big billion-dollar corporation wants to put a piece of another artist, like cover up my wall with another artist, and then they're advertising.
So why did you want to become an instructor?
I just wanted other people to feel what I felt. And it's just, even to this day, this morning, I was like, oh, do I want to go teach? You go in there and it just lights you up. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and it's still, I have chill bumps. You see people, they're changed bodies, and they're working so hard. And it just is so empowering. I don't know. I wanted that, and I still feel that. And I'll do it as long as I can.
Yeah.
For sure.
And what I love about it is that even though I've been doing the workout for 10 years, I'm constantly finding ways that I can fine tune, make it a little bit better.
Yes.
You guys have been incorporating new moves and new things for us to do, which I always love something new, although it's so funny because I always hate it the first time. I'm like, what is this? What are they doing now?
That's so true. That's so true, Delphine.
Well, part of the problem with that is, Delphine, is that from being a scientist and a chemist, when I watch influencers, kind of do this and talk about it, the big issue is that I would say 99% of the time, the information they're saying is totally wrong. The chemicals aren't right. What they do in the skin is not correct. They're saying, hey, this product does stuff. It's beautiful. So it's not really giving the right information out. And it helps those brands, sell a product, most likely, but it's not giving out. I mean, like you said, you worked at the Lauder County, so you remember that you would go there, you talk to a customer, you'd unpack it all, you explain it to them, you put it on your skin, you try it. But if you have these influencers that are not really...
And we were trained. I mean, we went through a lot of training to work behind the counter.
Yeah, and these are just people that are getting it in the mail, and because they're going to talk about it and they're saying, so all the information most of the time is wrong. And I'm watching it kind of like just cringing, like, oh my God, can you please sometimes
not true.
Sometimes I DM them and I just totally very honest, like, just give me, I don't want anything. Just give me a call or DM me. And I'll give you a little education on the brand, whatever it is, just to kind of make sure it's more accurate.
The $1 million question or the $1 billion question is, what is the mechanism that is allowing the person sitting 3 feet away to achieve these rapid healing, rapid anti-aging benefits? What is it? And currently, science at its current level of the knowledge doesn't fully understand. Just like we use 70% of drugs that are used in hospitals have never had a clinical test. Most of them, they don't know how they work, but they do know that they do work, so they use them in care.
Yeah, so we obviously, since the pandemic hit, we made some changes. And, I am the group publisher for Southern California, but I need help. I can't do all this work myself. So we have different people. We have our publisher in San Diego. We have a publisher in LA who handles all the day-to-day activity with Angelino and LA Confidential. I sort of oversee more of Orange County now and Palm Springs because, obviously there's so much money down in Orange County. We're trying to figure out ways to kind of grow this market a lot more when cities like LA were hurting a little bit more and things were closed down. So we've seen a change in our business model as well.
So in addition to being founder and CEO, you have a huge social media presence. I mean, you're a pretty mega public figure worldwide. How has social media changed the whole direct selling, social selling model?
It's been a journey. We started in 2008 with Excess when Facebook was newer. At least from my point of view, it was newer, not brand new, but it's just starting to hit mainstream, and really started playing with because we were very event driven, and so the question for us was, okay, if we're going to go host or sponsor a ski race in some remote part of Austria, how do we broadcast that and get a lot of engagement? How do we bring people along? For us, social media was always about including people in some fun activity or event that we were doing. And it got to the point, we were in 60 countries. And I was traveling, almost 10 months a year at the peak of it. As we were going to all these places, it was, how are we bringing people into these experiences that we're doing wherever we are and sharing it? And people, that became very popular. People liked to see where I was going, what I was doing, the parties we were throwing, the events we were doing, and the places we were doing them. And, it was almost like a travel log for a while. And so for us, it started out where it was very organic. You got to, if you built an audience, you got to reach the audience. I think over time, it got very frustrating for me because the more I built and invested, the more that those companies wanted to charge me to reach the audience that I effectively built for them, which I thought was, not as, it wasn't there wasn't the shared value that I was hoping for out of that, let's just say. And then lately, the thing that's been difficult for, I think, direct sellers is, direct sellers don't want people abusing the platform. They don't want people just out there trying to do transactions or sell or take advantage of a personal relationship in a way that would offend other people on the site. And so I think there's been a clamp down on how social selling can work with direct selling, with network marketing. The good thing for Access is we sort of focused on our brand as a product and as a branded experience, and took people on that journey. And the whole concept of owning your own business or repping our drinks was always in the very distant background. It wasn't in the forefront of our conversations. So we never really had that blowback that I think the companies that are more opportunity driven get. But I think right now there's just a lot of questions around, how do I take advantage of social media with a brand, with a product, with a company.
Well, and reggae is a music genre that has just transcended time. It seems to never be getting old. I can listen to reggae all the time and not get tired of it. Yeah. Is that why do you think people keep coming out for it? Because it's just that really feel good stuff that you can't get enough of.
Yeah, I think so. And they have a lot of political topics, and the corporations that were the music labels and all that would tell new artists. When we got signed by Virgin Records, they would tell us, can you play more pop music? Why do you got to play reggae? Reggae's never going to make it. Reggae's never going to be big. And I'd be like, well, I don't understand. I understand now why they said it, because at that time, music was trying to put people to sleep instead of wake them up to social issues, And so one good thing about reggae being big is that more social issues will be, talked about or brought up.
Absolutely, yeah. At a time when a lot of people are looking for outlets to talk about what's on their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to, Delphine. So yes, I was in Kenya twice in 2019, and it was during the new year of 2020 that I met some Maasai people, and I was captured by their beautiful jewelry. Some of it are here and some of it that we have. And I met a Maasai man, and we became friends. And he gifted me something really special. This is a ceremonial stick, and this could feed his family for a month. Wow. But he gave this to me, and it really touched my heart. When I learned that his wife and the other women and the children in the village were walking 18 miles every day just to get water, and that's all they did. And it really spoke to me, even though a lot of us have heard about people walking for water. When you meet somebody that's actually doing it, it's just, you can't get your head wrapped around it. So when I came back, Julie and Rose came to one of my yoga classes, and we started chatting. The next minute I know they're like, yes, we want to help. And we basically started thinking how we can start to help these people and raise enough money to fund a well for them.
Well, because you guys have been around so long, and, everybody, Sarah has a story. I have a story. You have a story of having Vans as a child. So how do you market yourself when everybody thinks they're a Vans customer? It must be difficult to pick a sweet spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been a part of our success, Delphine, to be honest, that we have not tried to be all things to all people. What I tell people is that ubiquity is not our objective. What we're trying to do is honor our purpose. And Vans' purpose is to enable creative self-expression. And we do that through what we call 4 cultural pillars: art, music, action sports, and street culture. And so we use those as our filters. What ties all those 4 filters together is creative self-expression, right? When you're an artist, when you're making music, when you're on your skateboard, when you're surfing a wave, those are all forms of expressing yourself. And what we say is if you're passionate about any of those things, if any of those things inspire you, if you care about expressing who you are as a human being, then we welcome you into our family. But we also at the same time understand very clearly that that our brand may not be for you. And we like having an edge. So we're open to anybody, but we are not for everybody. And I think there's a very important distinction there. So when we meet you for the first time, we welcome you in. We don't care who you love, what color you are, what you believe in, where you live. It doesn't matter to us. It's all good. But we also understand that at some point you might say that, well, Vans is not a brand for me. I really care about basketball. I can't wear Vans to play basketball. So maybe after basketball, I might wear a pair here and there, but I'm way more into a brand that focuses on performance in basketball. That's cool. We're not trying to be all things to all people. And we compete against some brands that do seek to be ubiquitous. So it gives us a very meaningful point of differentiation. And we have to punch above our body weight because we're competing against brands now that are 8 times, 10 times bigger than us. So this gives us that edge, that point of differentiation, that it's about creative self-expression. It's about a very specific thing that makes us who we are as human beings. And so it's easy for us to find our lane in that regard.
For me, I was able to just look at things, and even with Stephanie, who's been part of the gallery now almost half of its history. We always ask ourselves when we see something and we like it, it all is defined by, do you want to bring it home and put it on your wall? And easy enough. Yeah. It's that easy for us. We can look at something and that wasn't the case with my first wife, Fedna, because we didn't share the same taste in art, but we both knew what we liked enough to call art to show in our gallery. With Steph and I, we have a very similar sensibility, and we can just look at something. We can walk out of a studio and think, do you get that feeling that you want to just run back inside and grab one of those paintings and buy it?
I always believe small businesses, and even today, 30 years later, I still think all the excitement and the passion comes from small businesses. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't know anybody that's in love with AT&T or Bank of America, or I think when they get too big, they get goofy and they lose touch, the human touch. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at the sort of the landscape back in the 90s, and especially when I was involved with Quicksilver, I realized there's really no place for all of these small companies to congregate, because what we had, let's just say across America, we had malls. In Orange County, we had malls and strip centers. And I think a lot of these brands didn't want to be in a mall. Well, first of all, they couldn't afford it, and they didn't want to go sign a 20-year lease, but then they didn't want to be next to a Gap either, because I think it just, there was an awareness of brand culture. And at the same time, they didn't want to be in a strip center next to 7-Eleven and a dog grooming shop, because their brand has a greater cultural value than that. So I think for me, I saw an opportunity where, what if we just create this platform and bring all of the cool small people together? And that's really, it was as simple as that. And then I think...
And yet you don't have, I don't know that I see any of the major action sports brands world that you came from actually in your centers, though.
Well, we did. Originally we did, but as you're aware, that industry has also changed. And I think that industry also fell into the same model that I was sharing with you. I think they just got so big, and it was very difficult, particularly for the public brands, to maintain their cool.
And these people always want a piece of Conor McGregor. And I said, let's create a line that represents what you wear and your lifestyle, my lifestyle together. And let's get back to them at a affordable price. But the majority of them are guys that just want to be involved in Conor's life. And so we do T-shirts and hoodies and tracksuits and beanies and baseball caps and cool suits and jackets and bomber jackets. We do everything, complete collection. And it's an awesome collection. And he's got these famous quotes. They say, hey, Conor, you look great. What's going on this week? You're going to fight this weekend? He goes, yeah. He goes, I like to whoop ass and look good. that type of thing. So we put that on as it says August McGregor, whoop ass and look good.
Yeah.
And people love it. It's on a hoodie. And it's amazing. You put that online. I never sold anything online before. And it's an amazing energy.
So tell me, how did you meet Mayweather and what's it been like working with him?
Man, it's been nothing but uphill working with the champ. He's a smart businessman, very smart businessman. I met him through a gentleman by the name of Hayes. May he rest in peace. Best thing he ever did was put me and Champ together. And I was life coaching Hayes at that time. And Floyd felt that I needed to life coach the whole money team. And that's what Hayes took me to him. And before you know it, not only life coaching, but doing great business deals. And again, this guy is incredible. And I'm not just saying that because he gave me an opportunity to be able to go in business with him and be a co-founder of the Mayweather Boxing and Fitness franchise.
Which is like the first franchise deal he's ever done, right?
Exactly,
I mean, he is not a man. You don't see any Nikes with Mayweather's name on them.
No. He never ever, he left millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, I would feel, on the table because he never took endorsement deals. Why? Because he always wanted to be his own man. So we understand that coming from the Midwest. When I seen him, I say he's a real Midwestern like myself, because again, if you got to make dinner, you might as well make dinner for self. You follow what I'm saying? Not for others. Yeah. You follow what I'm saying? And get you a small plate. You're going to sit up there and be in the kitchen and make a 10-course dinner, and then all you get is a small saucer of food, but everybody else eat? No, that's backwards. Yeah. That's backwards. Just make the 10-course dinner. Now you can share it with different people. You know what I mean? But guess what? It's your dinner, and you can put the people at the table you want. Yeah. You follow what I'm saying? Not who they want.
Well, and the thing that you guys are doing together, it really is him. It speaks to how he works out, who he is, the image, the message he wants to relay to his fans. So it's such a positive thing all around.
Man, I'm telling you, every time me and him sit and get together, all we do is laugh and strategize. That's what it's all about. We always say, first class, no coach. When I say that, he's saying no coach bags.
All right, so mine isn't in a pantry. Mine's in the freezer because I am an ice snob. I have become, over the years, there's only certain types of ice that I like. So what people, I don't think, realize, one of the most important ingredients in not just a beverage, but especially a cocktail, is your ice. Right. It becomes your drink. So it's very important. And I've never been a fan of that refrigerator ice, that your freezer makes. So they're like the half circles and they're white. And I don't know if you've ever put them in just water, and as they melt, you see all this stuff. Yeah. So I have like a $10 a week ice habit. You do. I do too. So where do you get it? Most grocery stores sell it. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's just some kind of vintage. I think it's just called vintage ice, and they're square, clear cubes. A 5-pound bag is like $5. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very expensive. Yeah. But I get a couple bags of those a week, and it's beautiful. It not only looks great in the glass.
Okay, I am rushing right out. Where do I get this?
Most of the major stores. I shop at Pavilions or Albertsons, and they have it in the ice freezer. They'll have their brand of ice or whatever is their, normal brand, and then they'll have this, I think it's called vintage ice. You'll be able to see it because they're square. Yeah. And all the other ice is just like, crushed or whatever.
Oh my God, I love that.
We met not too long ago at our beautiful girlfriend Laura Sun's house. Right. Introduced by Donald Sucho. Right. A former Delphine Circle guest. Right. He's been in the circle.
And an Olympic volleyball player.
And an Olympic volleyball player. And you guys have known each other for quite a while.
Many years, yeah.
I was 23, 24. And then I never forget, I called the USA Olympic coach. And I was like, hey, coach, you know of me? And it's like, yeah, we've seen you play, of course, But I said, I'm going to be an American in 4 years. Can I come and try out now? It's like, well, you can't, because in Olympics, you have to try out. You have a quad, what's called. You work and play for 4 years for one tournament. Also, people don't understand how hard it is to be an Olympian because you work 4 years. I mean, tournaments, training, strength conditioning, performance. Then every summer you get new kids, I mean, it's America. So you get the best of the best from all the colleges, all Americans and player of the year to get your spot. So every summer, it doesn't matter how good you are, you have to perform and earn your spot and keep your spot, right? And then in 4 years, many things happen, right? Like you can join in 2000, but 2004, maybe you get injured, maybe you get, slow, maybe you get married. Who knows, right? There's a lot of factors that differentiate, us from other sports like NFL and NBA, because you have every year to repeat or be on the team. So when he said 4 years, I'm like, I want to come now. It's like, well, if you get the passport now, then you're more than welcome to come and join us. So in summer of 2000, the USC helped me with, some government, representative. I was supposed to be American anyway, but, they kind of fast forward the process. And then September 2000, after Atlanta Olympics, I joined the U.S. Olympic team in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Center, which when I walked in, I started crying because this is, top of the world. I mean, Michael Phelps was next to us. And back then I didn't know who he was, or Rulon Gardner, the most famous wrestler in the world. We're all training in the same gym. We're eating in the same cafeteria. We're all spending, time together. And that's when you get this like adrenaline, this free oxygen is called,
It's such a brotherhood amongst Olympians, right?
It's a tight group. I mean, it's like 1% of 1% of the world, right? So once you're there, then, you either have to be really stupid or lazy, but you don't get that there, right? So then it becomes competition, that 1%. Okay, how can I improve 0.5% from you and the other guys?
So you went to Washington Redskins in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and then you went on to have a series of NFL positions, Cincinnati Bengals, Atlanta Falcons, Baltimore Ravens, and then onto the Oakland Raiders, where you actually landed your first head coaching job in 2011. So how was that transition from going from college ball to pro ball? What was that like?
It was different. It was exciting because you knew you were one of the 32 best coaches in all the world at the position you coached.
Yeah.
And so for me, it became a challenge to how do I keep climbing this ladder?
Yeah.
I want to be one of the best in the league, not just one of the position coaches. So I wanted to be a head coach. And I told everybody that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I really didn't understand that there wasn't very many minority head coaches. I didn't see it that way because when you're in it, you're just trying to work your plan.
Right.
But it was a ride. It was.
What does it take to be a great coach?
I think, first of all, you have to be someone who can lead men.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to wear a lot of different hats because everybody learns differently at that level. You have to make sure that you're equipped to handle their issues, their day-to-day issues that they have as players in order to get them on the field to be the best version of themselves.
We have a term limit. I'll be term limiting off the board, but they have asked me to take on a project that is a little intimidating, but we have plans to transform what is already a great hospital, one of the top 20 hospitals in the country for children's healthcare, to really be the number one leading child care destination. Think Mayo Clinic for children's health.
Wow.
And that's our goal. Takes, unfortunately, a lot to get there, but
I need to introduce you to my friend and past guest, Ann Dunsmore. She's the one that raised the $1.24 billion for the UCLA.
I would love an introduction. I'm taking on the chairmanship of the campaign to raise $500 million. So,
there you go.
So yeah,
that's peanuts for Ann.
I will. I'll take all the advice I can get.
So, as if being a political powerhouse isn't enough, you're also a huge heavy hitter in charitable contributions, and so let me read off some of these because they're numerous. Director of Development for UCLA Medical Services.
Medical sciences, yeah.
Medical sciences. That's the glasses part.
Sorry.
Averaging over $180 million a year, which is really unbelievable. Manages staff of over 30 people. Raised $1.2 billion to build 2 new hospitals, as well as medical, academic, and research facilities. And you also spearheaded the naming concept, as well as the funding strategy for the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, and consulted on the David Geffen School of Medicine.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with UCLA? And it's very different probably than the type of work that you did in politics, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, politics is a great training ground because you don't have years to do something. You know, somebody says, I'm going to run for office. You have like 8 months or a year at most to sort of design, implement, and finish an effort. The UCLA thing was really cool. Michael Ovitz was and Ron Burkle were co-chairing the Capitol campaign. We'd had the Northridge earthquake, and everybody was under a mandate to either rebuild or retrofit the hospitals in the LA County area. And so they had decided to rebuild the UCLA Medical Center. And Michael had gone and procured I.M. Pei, you know, was the architect of the Louvre and just brilliantly historic, to build a new age hospital. And they were really having trouble. You have a lot of competition in LA on raising money for medicine. So I came in, and Michael called me up and said we had a mutual friend who had suggested, well, if, you know, you got a handle on all the Democrat donors in Los Angeles, but you got to get a Republican one, you better call Ann Dunsmore. So Michael and I met, and I guess I must have passed muster because then he introduced me to the dean and provost. So at the time, Dr. Jerry Levy was in charge of both the hospital and the medical school. And they were really designing a total overhaul. They wanted to become the best in the West at the very least.
You've been to both poles.
Yes, North and South Pole.
Tell me, what was it like going to the North Pole?
It was cold. It can get to 120 below. It was difficult. It's the hardest thing I ever did in my life.
Really?
Yeah. And without getting political, global warming is happening, and the ice up there is getting thinner. And there would be time when there was like 15 or 20 parties working their way up there, and sometimes this time we're doing there only 2, because for 1,200 miles there's no land; it's just ice. And if you fall through, it's a challenge.
There's nobody saving you.
You got to save yourself, and you got to practice that, and that's a whole thing by itself.
How long did that take?
Last part of it took us like 9 days.
Wow. Yeah. How many people on the trek with you?
6.
And was that something that you can buy your way into, or did you have to create it on your own?
Well, you create it on your own because you have to decide how you're going to be equipped. And it's not an easy place to get to. I mean, you go up through Norway and Oslo in a place called Tromsø, and then you fly up to the last place of land in the world on the north, which is a place called Svalbard. And it's like going into the Star Wars bar scene, to go back to the whole Darth Vader thing. There's no customs, there's no immigration, no one asks who you are. You just show up. And from there you snowmobile over to a place, and then from there you take these Russian jump jets that go land out on a Russian research base called Borneo. But it's literally on a sheet of ice that's floating. And there's a 14-day window, that's it. Because it's moving and it's melting. And the Russian base commander was really funny. He goes, well, if you're not back by this day, you'll be here another year. And he was nice, but he wasn't kidding either, Wow. And so when you land, you can watch the ice ripple from the jet, and the jet never completely stops. It just kind of keeps moving along, and you throw your stuff out and you jump out after it.
I do think culturally we got to feed ourselves. I don't know if there's enough culturally within my local environment to sort of satisfy the soul. So, and my kids, we made a sort of a hobby out of it. Ever since they were 4, we would go on these one-on-one trips. They've also done probably 110 countries, and we've done the North Pole, we've gone to the South Pole.
Gosh.
We went kayaking down the Amazon, we've done the Himalayas.
He's right up next to Mike Schroeder.
We went to Mongolia, which was on my bucket a few years back. They hated it, but I thought there was not a whole lot there, but it was really just fantastic being there. So I think if you have the opportunity to drop yourself somewhere else, not only you gain appreciation for the life that you have, otherwise I think we get goofy and take things for granted, but every trip you come back with another chapter to the repertoire.
My training was in Bordeaux. I lived in Saint-Emilion, ended up there on a trip to Europe for 3 months, and I stayed quite a bit longer. Mom and Dad were a little worried about that. I was 19. But I loved Europe, and I wanted to stay, and I was running out of money, like all the
But
kids
you come
were.
from an Italian family, right?
Yeah. My family's American-Italian, grew up drinking red table wines. I loved wine, but there was no vision for making wine. I was a kid and didn't want to go home from Europe. I really loved Europe. It impacted me tremendously and plays a big part in my life.
Do you speak any other language?
I did speak French because I was there for a long time. I've since lost it in 40 years. And I have friends who are sommeliers from I'll never forget, Gregory Castells was the head sommelier at the French Laundry. And I was practicing some of my French with him, and he looked over at me and goes, "You really shouldn't speak French." I went, ouch!
Where's your favorite steak? If you know you want a good steak, what's your go-to? And she's jumping at the bit, so let's go.
Well,
let Tracy
start.
go.
You start. I love Salone in Laguna Beach.
You took mine.
I love the steak. It's just a phenomenal steak, and I love the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I love Mastro's too, but if I had to guess one, it's definitely
well, and
Salone.
everything on their menu.
Everything.
I mean,
I love the
everything
restaurant.
on-
I love the charm
How
of
does
it.
a hockey
I just-
player make such a good
I don't know,
restaurant?
but they figured it out. And
Yeah.
it's my fave.
Yeah.
I went for my birthday actually. It's my fave.
Well, and the interior designer, O'Hara, that helped me with the Laguna House, is the designer of that restaurant.
maybe that's
so
why I like
feel
it
like
so
it's,
much.
it's like in the family. And Timo Solani is on my list. So if you're listening, Timo, I want you on the show.
Hey, we know him.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We can make it happen.
Well, and so does Carrie and Bree. So
All right.
between the two things, we're getting Timo on. What about you, Pamela? Do you have a favorite steakhouse?
I'm not a big steak person.
I know you're
I
not.
eat maybe one or two a year, but Mastro's is pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
I've not tried Solani's.
Yeah,
You have to
gotta
go.
go.
I know. I mean, I've been there
and you're
for,
so
like,
close to there.
I know. I mean, it's right down the street.
So you love wine, but you're also a foodie.
Yeah.
You love food. What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, well, overall, in the course of my life, be the French Laundry up in the Napa Valley. They give you a clothespin when you go there, and I have 55 clothespins. Not that I like the place or anything.
You've been to French Laundry 55 times? You've clearly have to be their most popular.
I don't know about that. It's interesting. I went there 2 months after it opened, so I got this before they were kind of a big deal. And I met the chef, who's a really nice man. And
Thomas Keller?
Yep. And so I just kept going.
Mhm.
And one of the times he did a pop-up in London, in Harrods, and I thought, what could be more shiny than that? I got to go to that too. So and there they gave you a sterling silver clothespin.
What is with the clothespins?
Because the name of the place is the French Laundry. And it was actually in an old French laundry when he bought the place. So he just kept that name. And so when you get there, you get a wooden clothespin with French Laundry stenciled into the side of the clothespin.
That's so
And I
cool.
just come home and I throw them in a bowl. And after a while, it became...
What's coming down the pike? What are the newest ingredients and technologies that you're excited about?
Well, one of them is the micellar fluids, which is a pretty much a waterless cleanser. I have one of them in my brand too. But
How does that work? I swear to gosh, I use it, but I still don't quite understand. It feels like water, and yet it does what a cream or a cleanser would normally do, right?
Right. It's kind of like a flowable cleansing water, and the reason why I came up with mine personally years ago when California was in a horrible water drought, which is about 3-4 years ago, and I wanted to make something that you didn't need water to use.
I think you guys all know I had Vince Spinato, cosmetic chemist, on my show recently, and he gifted me with the VS Vincenzo skincare line, which, okay, gosh, it is expensive, but if you can afford it, ladies, I have never used anything on my skin better in my entire life. And the funny thing is, Vince was saying in the interview, he's like, oh, and then, just imagine if you were selling this and it works instantly. And I was thinking to myself, how nothing works instantly? Oh, no, it works instantly. Wow. The under eye cream, really tightens and firms. And, because I'm on camera all the time, I can see the difference in my skin.
Really?
Sometimes it's hard to tell when you're in front of the mirror every day. No, it is unbelievable. He has the micellar water, the fluid that actually is the cleanser. And I had tested these out when we had the salon and, looked into selling them. And I don't know, I just wasn't overly, impressed. This fluid literally makes you feel like you have a facial. Wow. Not only does it take everything off the surface of your skin, it literally cleans your pores. Wow. It is unbelievable. And it actually has caviar and diamonds in it. Wow. So that's the price point. Be the best. But yeah, so VincenzoSkincare.com. I highly recommend it. I'm going to have to check that out. And we're both tequila enthusiasts. Love my tequila.
I love my Grand Leyenda.
Yeah, you sure do. In fact, we have a bottle here, and I did pour us a little bit so that we will be sipping this as we go. Gorgeous bottle.
Thank you.
And I have to say this is my favorite tequila because it is organic and it's clean and it's smooth and it tastes great. And
don't panic.
Because it's always more fun to do girl talk over cocktails.
Definitely. That's what we're used to anyway.
Thank you so
And
much.
I love the fact it's organic.
Yeah,
you know
right?
me. I love
No
organic.
hangovers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, ladies. Thank you for having us.
Yay. Your more famous deals is you executed the Yeezy deal with Kanye West. Tell us a little bit about how that went down.
I've never had a deal die as many times as that deal. Kanye is not easy to be opposite of.
Yeah.
And his approach, they had the president of Adidas, had flown in a red eye from Germany to sit down with us in our Century City office to negotiate this. What ended up making Kanye a billionaire. I mean, at the time, he had not managed his wealth particularly well, and it was, certainly a matter of public record.
Public record.
But we negotiated a baseline of not less than $600 million, but it has been much more successful than that by a multiple of that, and it's created a great amount of wealth for Kanye. So once we ultimately signed it, I went to his home, and he and Kim were up in LA, and one of their many homes. But I went there with my tax partner, and we're there, and there's 20 people in the house running around. There's Kim's there. She comes in, dragging Kanye away from us, and multiple times there's some designers there that are trying to help do bring some furnishings into the house and things. And I asked him, I said, now that it's done, you signed this up for a couple weeks ago, and you've had an opportunity to reflect. Are you happy with it? You mentioned indentured servitude. Are you? And he says, Carrie, yeah, I still feel the same way. And I said, oh, why'd you do it? And he says, one reason only. And that is to shut up all of Kim's friends, because they've told her for years that I'm out of my mind, that I'm, half a lunatic. And to me, this has to shut them up, because would a great company like Adidas pay someone $600 million or more if they were a lunatic? I said, Kanye, that's an interesting way you're looking at it.
There you go. The 2020 Gallup poll shows that church membership has declined 14% from 2010 to 2020. So now only 47% of Americans say that they belong to a church. Why do you think why do you think that is?
I think that we have had a declining interest in religion over the last 60 years. And I think, I don't know if I have my dates correct, but it's close to this. I think it was 67. There was a legal case which took school out of took prayer out of the schools. And the next year we took Bible out of the schools. And then a few years later, we took the 10 Commandments away. And we continue to degrade the societies to a point where it's a secular society. We're raising all of our children in secular schools. And so So our young people don't have a foundation of living. And then we wonder why there's a segment of society that's not happy. And it's a snowball.
We do a little something here on Delphine Circle called the Big Questions.
The big question. Shoot for it. Go big or go home, right?
You gotta go big.
Yeah.
You're not going home.
Tell me something that you used to believe but you don't anymore.
Now you're going to really open up a can of worms. I used to believe God was not real. I was atheist until I was 22. I wasn't playing atheist. I wasn't kind of atheist. I was atheist. I didn't have a reason to believe in God. I'd never seen a representation or had an experience or any of those things. And I no longer believe that God's not real. I wholeheartedly know He's real, and it was a very profound shift in my life and orientation to being on this earth.
I used to believe that Crooks was the coldest and the best person to mimic. Those were just, that was it for me, being a super crook. I don't anymore. You know, the one that smart to me is not the guy who carried a gun, but the guy who carried the most powerful weapon in the world, and that's a writing pen.
I'd go back to what we talked about, global warming. Initially, I thought it was just a climate variation thing, and then after seeing what I saw, I realized, okay, this is a problem. It's something we need to figure out what to do about.
What do you have one?
You're not supposed to do that, Dave. I probably have a lot of them. And I think one of the ones that I have was about kind of thinking that where you started is where you were going to be. And I think I've changed to understand that your direction of your life is based basically on what your intention is. And that, you don't need to react to life. You can actually direct life. And my life has become really beautiful once I understood that small change of thinking. So yeah, I think I've changed a lot in that way.
Something that I used to believe that things mattered. That I don't want to be like a nihilist, but I've gotten to this point where I call it being detached from the outcome. It's all about the journey and minimally about the end.
Tell me something people would be surprised to know about you.
That I'm lazy and I have a lack of self-esteem.
Yeah, I would be surprised to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe it, but
yeah,
okay.
it's true. It's the self-esteem issue is kind of now something that I know it's there. I play with it. It's like my sandbox friend, and then I know for survival reasons that it can't be a dominant force. But it's part of who I am, and I actually think that it keeps me balanced. I'm a Libra, so I have a lot of things that I keep in place to just keep a little foot on the side of the scale that could go like this at a moment's notice.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I'm afraid of heights. I'm a tough. I'm a tough person. I'm very strong. Gosh, but if you get me, I'm afraid of flights. I mean, I flew all over the world. I mean, I flew like thousands and millions of miles, but every time I get on the plane, I shake.
Oh.
Every time the plane shakes, I shake. It's weird, So I'm afraid of flights and heights. Yeah, big time.
Okay, I would not have guessed that about you.
Big time,
I got kicked out of college for a poem.
That seems like a bad college. Did it have...
It was a very conservative school. My parents would only pay for Christian colleges. And it was the best Christian, or one of the best Christian colleges that exist. But they were just very conservative.
I got 11 toes. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I totally went for it. I was like,
you should have seen your face.
I eat like a horse. I have a crazy appetite. I love food. My mom tells me that when I was super little, she'd put me in the high chair and I'd like bang like this, like incessantly until she put food down for me. I'd eat the food and then start banging on the thing again. And I've kind of been like that.
What books have influenced you the most?
The Bible. I don't read a lot of books. I read a lot of periodicals, and I'm Wall Street Journal and a lot of magazines and newspapers, and I'm really into like the current events of life and what's going on in all different aspects of life. And so, but I read the Bible from cover to cover now, and I really, at first, it was
That might be something people are surprised to know about you.
right. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually. I go through a lot of books. I would say my favorite book last year was The Untethered Soul.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I just love that book.
Love that book.
So I actually went through it a few times, and it's funny. The second time I went through it, the first time obviously I was so influenced that I thought I got to do this again, and then a couple of months later I went through it again. I'm like, God, I don't remember that. So it's just, I think it's worth.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot about
2 or 3
setting your
reads.
intention and manifesting. Right?
Yeah, there's something.
Tell me about a goal that you've yet to reach.
Winning Super Bowl. I'm going to do it. Oh, I know I am.
All right.
Oh, I believe it.
We're going to hold you to it.
Oh,
Hugh.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to find a way. Absolutely. Because it's something I want to do.
Yeah. Tell me about a time in your life where you reached a turning point.
Oh, great. Good. So I don't have to repeat myself. I sat down at my desk and I was so depressed and I hated my work so much. And I went home and I just sat. It was an aha moment. I said, I just cannot live a fake life anymore. I can't be working in something because maybe my parents wanted me to like work in business. I just couldn't do it anymore. So I had always, since I was a child, I had always wanted to work in healthcare or medicine. I always wanted to be healing people and fixing broken things, healing things.
Just thank you so much, Vito, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Doug. You've been such a pleasure to have on. And
Thanks so much for having me.
David, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me. I really
having you
appreciate
there.
it. Love seeing
It's
you.
been amazing.
Thank you so much for coming and being my guest
My pleasure.
today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have to have dinner next.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Delphine Circle. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it will help us keep these incredible interviews coming your way. Here are 2 other episodes you may enjoy. I'm Delphine. Welcome to my circle.